I'm Brant Basting. I am the co-founder of Bell Lab Track and Field. We were founded to help athletes out, help them with additional compensation. Basically, they'll send us their gear and we'll sell it anonymously for them. The other thing that we do is we do sponsor some athletes out of our own pocket. So because the business does not generate revenue unless we sell the gear with the Bell Lab logo on it, that gear goes directly to supporting athletes. So we've had to experience working with USATF firsthand, making sure that we adhere to all their rules and policies. Also grew up running, and then luckily here in the States, we do have access to all of the documents that they have to file with the government. So we're lucky enough that we can pull up their tax returns. In this case, it's a 990 form. Runner's World did a great job of highlighting this in their article, so shout out to them. They really did do a fabulous job of bringing attention to this issue.
And I don't want to be too pessimistic throughout the whole conversation, but as we've seen the tax returns, and I'm pretty sure most bigger organizations will be the same in this. That's the tax returns, so of the pay we know of, so they could be getting
Correct.
more pay. Can you walk us through? I mean, you did a brilliant graphic, which is on Instagram as well with the reel. But can you sort of walk us through the situation for anyone who might not know it, and then we can talk
Yeah,
like sort of dissect it a bit more.
definitely. So the tax return that they put out that was referenced in the Runner's World article indicated that essentially USA Track and Field brought in around $36.6 million of revenue, and which is great. That's great for the sport. It's good to see them highlight that. And really, how they allocate that money was not really in question, with the exception of the large amounts allocated to Max Siegel being $3.8 million or a little over, and then Renee Washington getting almost $1.6 million. So between those two, I mean, you're looking at over 12% of the annual revenue allocated to two individuals. Now, again, we're not saying that those people should work for free. It's a not for profit, but we understand like they have to get paid. So in the response to Runner's World, Mike Conley said the USA board is comfortable with Max's salary level, and it compares to organizations with similar or smaller operating budgets. So that's really what prompted this, because I'm like, are we really paying him like what everybody else deserves to get paid? So I started out by just looking at, again, if we're sticking like straight to the facts here, wanted to look at like, okay, well, what does like the NBA, which is a huge organization, right? We all understand that's way bigger than track. Well, they pay their commissioner, so their CEO in this case, it's a little different, $10 million, but their annual revenue is $10 billion. So it's a little bit bigger of an organization. Then to look at like the U.S. Olympic Paralympic Committee and Olympic Committee. So those are two organizations that are closely tied, obviously, and they actually feed money to USA Track and Field. So they have two CEOs, one for the Olympic Committee and one for the Paralympic Committee. The Olympic Committee CEO makes $1 million, and the Paralympic Committee CEO makes 600,000. But their operating budget, or their revenue from 2021 was $457 million. So again, we're talking a higher amount. So then the last figure I'll give you, and I know these are a lot of numbers coming at you, but USA Swimming, um, again, to put it in perspective, track 36 point or $33.6 million, USA Swimming 33.5 million dollars. So 100 grand difference, fairly negligible. But the USA Swimming CEO made $975,000. So we're really the biggest question is like, why is why is Max getting paid a little over 3 times what USA Swimming CEO is getting paid?
So the first thing to dissect this is that's the end all question. Why is this happening? And I think it goes back to the statement made after the Runners World report, which was the board is comfortable with this pay. So what are the factors that determine success of Max as a CEO role? They're clearly happy with his success of the role. So then how do we look at that and go, he's been successful because of this? Like, what points can we actually pick apart where he's been successful and deserves the salary he's getting?
Really, what everyone points to with Max is that he was the catalyst for getting the Nike contract extended through 2040. So again, they've got another 18 years on that contract, and then that's a big part of the revenue. I think it's like 18 or 20 million dollars a year. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but 18 or 20 million dollars a year. It might even be 25. I'd have to look it back up, but that's really what they point at. Like that's what he brought in.
So obviously we can say, let's just say he 100% was the reason for this. If it wasn't for him, this wouldn't have happened. For me, from a non-profit organization, which is USA Track and Field is, and their sole driving factor seems to be achieving high revenue, I would think you'd base success on how you actually spend that revenue rather than receiving the revenue. So how has that been successful? Because when you look at it, USA as a team are the most successful track and field team on the planet. They get the most medals at world championships. They're breaking the most world records. So on paper, that's successful. If that's part of the metric, you go off the success of the athletes, that's good. But also, how much of that is responsible down to the athletes, the NCAA system, the high school system, which is also the best in the world. So that isn't USATF, that is the NCAA and high schools. And then when the athletes transition out of college, they're going to teams which are independent coaches, so Nike coaches or New Balance coaches or On coaches. It's never a USATF setup. And obviously there's funding, but how is the metric of success from a non-profit revenue over influence and positive impact on the sport? If we're talking about Max's wage exclusively, let's say it's proportionate to the swimming, so he gets around $1 million. Where does that 2 million go? Because that'll probably go very quickly. It's not that much money in the sense of, yes, it is still a high proportion of the revenue, but it's, that'll go very quickly in terms of what they can spend it on. How do you think people's feelings are they justified to be angry at this? And also, how much of an impact do you think it would change if he was paid proportionate amounts?
I think people are upset just because it seems like just a lot of money. I mean, anytime somebody makes a lot of money, it's going to call attention to it. Again, I don't think anyone expects Max to do it for free. I don't think that they expect him to take a salary of $50,000. I mean, you're leading a large organization. And if it was like USA Swimming where he's getting paid $1 million, I don't even think it wouldn't even show up on the radar. $1 million is a lot of money, as we know, but I don't think that it would show up on the radar. How they could reallocate it, I'm always a fan of like giving back to the athletes that are generating that revenue. It'd be kind of interesting to see how NIL, which is the basically it allows people to pay college athletes now. I don't know if any. I know that I think it was Caitlin. Was it Caitlin Tui just got a NIL deal with Adidas? Am I
Yep.
remembering that correctly? So I'd be curious to see like maybe we invest earlier in the athletes, so allow college athletes to get some of that. Where before, like if a college athlete shows up to a pro meet and they win, that money's not like passed down to the next person. It's just that the athlete can't take it. So like Duplantis, when he was winning all those U.S. championships but jumping for LSU, he couldn't claim that. So it'd be interesting to see like if they could work out a deal there, and then invest, like I said, a little more in maybe we can get a deal where we go after trying to get it more visible or somehow consolidating everything to one streaming platform versus having five or five or six. So that'd be nice to see.